All right, fastest 15 minutes in social media, fastest 15 minutes on the internet. And my name is Judson Powell. Okay, I want to talk to you just a little bit about a subject that I think needs to be brought up at this juncture, which is Black diversity. And Black diversity meaning that all voices need to be and should be heard. Because if somebody has an opposite opinion that you do, they are just as much substantiated in their opinion as you are. In the old vernacular, the old school, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of times, I think we as Black folks are caught up in all of these verses. I know they do it in music, but a lot of times politics and social issues also come into play. So when politics and social issues come into play, you need to listen to all opinions, dissenting opinions, as well as popular opinions, the most popular opinions, because sometimes people, they don't see things from your perspective or from where you're coming from. And it comes in relationships, it comes down to business, it comes down to all types of things. And just because somebody has a different opinion than you do does not mean that you have to fight them or that they're your enemy. A lot of times, a lot of things can be gained from listening to dissenting opinions from yours. And I've learned that, I learned that in law school, because when you're going up against somebody else, they're obviously they don't have the same opinion that you do, but you have to present cogent arguments, persuasive arguments that actually let them know that what you think is just as important as what they think. And I think that right now that is a problem. And I look at all the stuff on the net, and I'm basically a information sponge. And so, like, basically I look at, or I try to look at everybody and get a smidgen, even if it's just a smidgen of what their feelings are. I like to listen to it, because then I know, I'm like, okay, well, this person feels this way and this is why they feel this way, or this person feels that way and this is why they feel that way. And I think that those opinions are important, especially right now, as we struggle to get out of Jim Crow and slavery and all of the things that we've been through, for 400 years. But there needs to be some common opinions that need to prevail. It's just like the election. The majority wins. Even though you may not agree with the majority ends up winning. And so I think that concept, and also the concept of listening to dissenting opinions, is very important. And I think that we need to stop, we really need to stop limiting ourselves to one opinion, or so saying, oh, well, you don't get a black card, or you're not invited to the cookout because you don't feel the same way that everybody else does. And we need all of those opinions. We need the opinion of the one that ain't invited to the cookout, and we need the opinion of the one that's giving the cookout, and we need the ones that are coming to the cookout just to eat and see what's going on at the cookout. All of those opinions are valid. All right, they're all valid. And the other thing is, that's just like if y'all look at other communities, in other ethnic communities, other racial communities, other even religious communities, we could break it down to that. You see all kinds of different opinions, and human beings, being a human being, you are different, and your scope of knowledge or scope of information is also going to shape your opinion. What you've been exposed to, and what you haven't been exposed to, is going to shape your opinion. And that's basically what? It's knowledge. It's a base of knowledge. So people that have a different knowledge base are a lot of times going to disagree. But when you listen to that other opinion, then you can increase your knowledge and thereby increase your wisdom. See, because, and I this is something I talk about all the time. Knowledge is nothing. you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to use that knowledge in a practical way, then you're not using wisdom, because wisdom is how you use knowledge. Wisdom is how you go and you negotiate through a problem or through something that the society needs, wants, or desires. And in fact, even the people that are the richest people in the world, what do? They solve human problems. So they solve human problems, or they create a want or a desire towards something that everybody likes. So you know, like say for instance, ice cream. You know, you find very few people who dislike ice cream. You know, I don't like it that much because I'm lactose intolerant. But somebody that ain't lactose intolerant, they love ice cream. And I know there's probably all kinds of, which I don't even try to look for, but I know there's probably alternatives to ice cream and all that kind of stuff. But you see what I'm saying? There is something in everything for everybody. But if you don't listen to those other opinions, a lot of times you are just, you know, floating in space with your own opinion. And a lot of times you may realize later on that your opinion was wrong, or that you change your mind. And that's why, you know, sometimes people overuse the words hypocritical. But like Muhammad Ali said before he passed away, he was like a man who has the same opinions and the same objectives and the same routine and everything else as he did when he was a teenager. As when he gets into his 50s, you know, he hasn't really lived, because you haven't experienced enough to be able to take things and be able to change those opinions. You know, just like in my, you know, I got to credit this one to my wife. You know, it's almost like men, like when you're out there dating or whatever you're doing, courting, whatever you want to call it, and meeting women and this, that, and the other thing, and you're having a lot of different relationships with different women or whatever, it's a whole lot different when you have a daughter. After you have a daughter, your thinking is not the same. It just isn't. And it's part of a double standard. You know, let's not lie about it. It's a double standard, the way men treat their daughters as opposed to the way that men treat their sons. But if you don't understand what's behind that, or why a certain person would feel a certain way, then you're not listening to everybody's opinion. That's what's going on. So black diversity is very important. It's very important, you know, because everybody is not going to think the same way. And just to say that we only have one opinion or one way of doing things or one way of dressing or one way of talking or one way of this or one way of that, just like one of the things I hate the most is, oh, you sound white. It's like, you know, what? You know, and when I first got into radio and television, one of the first things that I was always told was that I sounded too white. So now this whole vernacular and voice that I have right now, I had to develop it so that I could get on black radio, because that was my desire. It wasn't that, you know, I desired to sound any particular way. I just wanted to sound like me. I didn't, you know, but as time went on, every time you go in for a job or every time you're interviewing for something and they're like, oh, you know, well, you know, we were looking for somebody that was a little bit more ethnic, you know, or somebody that was a little more this or a little more that, or you sound white. The first radio stations that I worked on were Caucasian stations, because I was good enough to do the job, but I wasn't good enough to sound black. I always sounded, you know, to them, I always sounded white. So it was always, okay, you're on this white sounding station. And, you know, there was a couple of times when I was like the only black person. I was, you know, and I had to fight through a lot of things, especially a lot of covert and overt racism, because people didn't understand, well, how does he have this job? And, you know, and a certain, you know, Caucasian may not have had the job. So you gotta look at these things from all different standpoints. And then, when you're going on the air and knowing that they want you to sound white, then you got to go into this whole thing about, now I'm denying my ethnic background or my cultural background. So, and I just think that's bad. And I'm a music historian, so I know all music. I remember one day my son was sitting up there, and my son was like, "Where do you know?" Because I decided, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna play all these old classic rock songs and all the songs that we used to play on the rock station that I worked at. The first job I got was at a rock station. I won't even say rock and roll. I just say rock station. And so I knew all this music, and I met all these artists. I got some of the best Caucasians beat with some of the people that I was able to meet and all of that, because I was on a mostly Caucasian station. So I can give you some stories about things that went down. But here's the bottom line. The bottom line was that I trained for being excellent, for black excellence. And I think that in the diversity of opinions, I think that creates black excellence. And I think that even for no matter what vein or what genre or whatever you're in, because look, the best guitar player ever, Jimi Hendrix, is a black man. But if you talk to white guitarists, they worship him. The same with Prince. Prince was a great guitarist, and he was a guitar player extraordinaire. And then when you go into other fields, then there were other people that were considered great, but they all played or tried to play like Jimi Hendrix. They tried to get the sounds and everything out of their guitars as he did. And the same thing is with the music of the islands. Bob Marley is considered what? He's considered a legend. He's considered a legend. So when you look at legendary status and all of these different things that are going down, color has very little to do with it. What it has to do with is a desire to be excellent or to be great in what we do. But that takes other opinions, because just like Jimi Hendrix trained Ernie Isley. And Ernie Isley, at one time the Isley brothers had Jimi Hendrix as their guitarist. But nobody listens to the Isley brothers. In fact, a lot of the Isley brothers hits from the 50s and 60s were re-recorded by Caucasian artists. So the diversity is important. The diversity and the way, because we develop and we encourage creativity. All of everything comes from what? Comes from boom. We look at it, and I always talk about the Akashic records, the fact that there's a record in the stratosphere of everything that's going on. And you can talk about, okay, can we take to that? Then we have juxtaposed to what? The funk. Because funky music, whether you realize it or not, was taken from those early rock and roll licks. It's like if you listen to the guitar solo in Not Just Knee Deep, right? It's brilliant. It's a brilliant guitar solo. I think Mike Hampton was the one that did that. But do you understand what I'm saying? You got to be able to look at all of these, because if you didn't look at all of them, then part of your creativity is missing, or part of the whole message or the whole story is missing if you don't embrace our own diversity. We have to embrace our own diversity. The fact that we got black folks out there that can do anything. I mean, and literally, I mean anything. Anyway, so the fastest 15 minutes is up. Just when I get going good. I hate it. Fast 15 minutes is up. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, hit all the buttons. Button. But most of all, Love one another. Hit the love button. I love you.